Welcome to Bayology, a real life study of love and relationships. This is your girl Chayla, your resident bayologist, and I am here at St. Charles Tavern with Mr. Jay.
What's up?
Who is an extremely profound, just very expanded individual. He's an artist.
I got her fooled. Don't let her sell this. No, I'm just trying to keep it kind of low key.
He's an artist, extremely deep, extremely profound, and he and I actually had one conversation, and I said, save it, I need it for the show. So this is Bayology, the Race and Relations edition, and we actually do have a forum, a group here. Yay! Everybody say hey to my babes. Hey! So like, I'm extra excited about that. If you're still on your way, like, come on over. We'll be here till about 7:30. St. Charles Tavern is where we are.
1433 St. Charles Avenue.
1433 St. Charles Avenue. You heard it. So, just a little housekeeping before I get started. I just want to shout out my partners, Next Generation Millionaires. Always has my back and keeps me with the fly logos and banners. Hey, Lauren. And so, and I want to give a special thank you to Cairo Kwame for linking us up and introducing me to this guy, Jay, who is absolutely going to blow your minds tonight. So, because this is the first live studio audience kind of like taping situation, we are taking questions from you as well as our attendees here. So let us know if you can hear us. Can y'all hear us okay on the microphone? I do have mics, so just wanted to know if those are working. All right, so Jay?
Well, I apologize. Shayla raised the bar. I'm not exactly sure what I'm supposed to deliver here. Any questions about whatever, we can shoot, and I'll just shoot from the hip. I have a tendency to kind of be unfiltered, so if you want the politically correct version of whatever it is you're looking for, that ain't gonna happen, because I'm gonna kind of just shoot from the hip. So, anybody got anything they want to start this show off with? Do you have any kind of show openers?
So we originally were talking about race relations and relations as we relate to one another, namely black people and white people from a historical standpoint, is how we all got started with this conversation. And I remember I was telling you about the whole Section 8 housing and how that began to be the break in the black family dynamic as we know it today, and how it's still going on and being perpetuated with things like other assistance, the voucher systems. Now it's going through generations. And so, and I know you have a lot to say about from your own experience with interracial dating.
Yes.
So, but I just kind of wanted to touch on that whole historical point.
Hello.
We have Miss Geneva Joy in the building. Oh my God, I feel so special. Thanks for coming.
Hey, you look cool too.
Yeah, order, get some drinks, get comfortable.
Now, to touch on that, or if I can start with it.
Yes.
I didn't even know about the Section 8 housing thing, where I think what she was telling me was a black woman with a family or not, or whatever, she's not allowed to have a single black man living with her.
Black, white, otherwise, period.
So it's like, that's kind of a breakdown of, you've got the nuclear family, you've got kids who are being raised by, single parent style, and there's something missing. Especially this day and age where you need both parents out working, just to support, you got rent, you got bills, you got education, etc. Mm-hmm. But if you're a single mom and you're trying to do all this stuff by yourself, and you got to have housing, you have to have a place to rest your head, it's like a government mandated thing where you cannot have a man in the house. Now, I think that this is the first I even heard of that. I didn't know about that.
That's ridiculous. They do checks.
If you take it back, and one of the things that we were talking about the other day is, you go back to the slave days. I mean, if we're talking about America, we got to be real.
Right.
One of the reasons America is a superpower, or got superpowered status, was we had a couple hundred years worth of free infrastructure work You know, you had a workforce that got to work for nothing. Other countries got to, you know, they had to pay their peasants, et cetera, et cetera. But we had this workforce that was basically disposable. They had to write it into the Constitution that we were 3/5 of a human being, number one. So as we were talking about interracial dating, there seems to be kind of a conflict between black men and black women, at least in my experience, because I think a lot of black women don't, I don't know if respect is the word, but there's a lot of competition going on. And I believe the roots of that come from slavery, because back in the day, you know, if you've got a big bull, they're broken down in front of the women. You know, you get a big guy, any guy who talks back or whatever, you hang him, you beat him, you emasculate him. And so the women are watching this guy get the crap kicked out of him or hung or whatever. And so there's a lack of respect that's kind of interwoven into the society.
But in turn, the women would see that, and then they would turn around and they would rear their children in a way that wouldn't happen to them.
Yes, turn them into softer.
It's perpetuated out throughout generations at this point. Go on.
Well, it's something that, okay, I've enjoyed, how do you want to put this? Relationships from, you know, women from different countries. And what I've noticed is foreign women tend to treat their men a little bit better, from my experiences. There's that competition. Okay, if we take it into like a barroom talk where there is no filter again, you know, I'm just going to be kind of crass with it. Black women hate it when they see a black man, in my experiences, when they see a black man with a woman of a different, you know, from a different race, especially if it's a white woman, they kind of lose their shit. They kind of flip out on it. From a black guy's perspective, you know, there's the masculine and the feminine. There's nature, and it works. It knows what it's doing. It's been doing what it's doing for millions or billions of years, however long. So that's not to say that one is stronger and one is weaker. These things kind of work in a yin-yang sort of way. And so when you've got the man and the woman, both equals, but there are certain things that women can do that men can't do.
Correct.
And there are things that men can do that women can't do. And so when you come together, there's the strength of the man and the strength of the woman and everything that, you know, that entails. And especially when you've got children in the mix, they get to see those character strengths, and it informs them as they grow. But when you've got a situation where, stereotypically, if you have a woman who's full of sass, and I know it sounds, I don't mean to detract, because you can be a powerful woman, you can be a businesswoman, you can be a go-getter, you can be assertive. I got no problem with that whatsoever. But between a man and a woman, like we were talking the other day about this other thing, women, not all women, but I've noticed that women have a tendency to like men who are a little bit bigger or who are, if you want a guy who's 5'1" and 130 pounds, you may as well be with a girl. So what I've noticed is it's kind of like survival of the fittest sort of thing, and they breed these sort of things into the subculture or into mating practices. So natural selection, thank you. There's nothing wrong with a woman liking a bigger guy, and there's nothing wrong with a guy liking a smaller woman. This is something, as you were pointing out, how black women are kind of, thick, durable, etc.
Oh yeah.
And that is a source of contention, because when black women see black men with another race woman, and if she happens to be a smaller woman, that drives them even more crazy than if it's a bigger woman of a different race.
But on the flip side, I feel like as a black woman, if I were looked at by a black guy walking down the street, then there's the assumption that I want to be white. I'm throwing away my black card because I'm with this white man that I've sold out to the man, when really that's just who I prefer to be dating. It has nothing to do with my blackness, but I feel like that's the most assumption that men have of women when they see black women with white men.
You know what? That goes in one ear and out the other. I never cared. Like, if whoever you're with, and Dr. Umar, remember, like recently he's had a bunch of kind of controversial, things with Roland Martin, etc.,
Y'all
etc.
know about Dr. Umar?
Yeah, so his whole thing is, look, boil it all down. We're human beings, and who you hang out with, who you love, who you choose to spend your time with, that's your business. And one of the things that he said is, oh, I have no respect for a black man if he's with a white woman. And it's like, hey man, you ain't paying my bills. There's no element of what you are doing in this world that contributes to my growth or my happiness. So whoever you want to be with, if you want to be with a white guy, Chinese guy, whatever, more power. Because at the end of the day, you close the door, you take care of your business, you're paying your bills, you're living your life. And if someone brings you happiness, it don't matter where they're from, then you should be able to do that. Also, he makes this point about how black people should only be with black people and white people should only be with white people. And it kind of doesn't make sense if you look at it from a strategic perspective. Tactically, yes, but strategically, no, because we are at a disadvantage in the numbers game. If this is a war of attrition, and if population sort of maintain what it's doing, we're 12, 13 million people in this country, black people. So if we only have kids with each other, then we're going to raise at this rate. And if white people only have kids with each other, basically we are always going to be a minority if that continues.
Correct.
But the trick to that is, if there's interbreeding, interracial mixing, if you look at Barack Obama, or if you look at any of a number of people who are mixed or half and half, they're considered black. If Barack Obama, if you didn't know he was the president or the ex-president, if he was walking down the street, you would look at him and you would go, hey, that's a black guy. And that is something that white supremacists actually, they hate that because it's like they're being phased out of existence. So to an Umar or to someone who's isolationist, if you want to play this as it's a game or a war, and if you want to win, you would almost want to promote the mixing because that makes more people of color. Because two white people come together, they have a white kid. A white person and a black person come together, that kid is more likely going to be a person of color than a lighter. So,
and I just wanted to add that race is just a perception. So if I look at you and I say, hey, that chick looks like a Hispanic girl, but really she's really white, in my mind I'm registering her as being Hispanic because that's what she looks like. Just like you have Passe Blondes in New Orleans, like the perception when you look at them is that they're white, they're really not. All race is just a general naked eye perspective of what the mind registers that person to be racial to me.
Gotcha. Now we've got a conversation going on. What do y'all got going on in this?
Yeah.
Throw it in.
I never heard the perspective really of, like you said, white supremacists hate when you see, a half white, half African American person, and you just consider them as black, and that's kind of understandable. It really is. Mm-hmm. And I just never heard the perspective from white supremacists or whites in general that it feels like they feel like they're being erased from it, and I never saw it that way. I guess I grew up in New York, and completely Italian neighborhood, kind of racial tension, kind of big, and it was never viewed like that, like where it was almost an advantage for the Africans.
Well, and you know what?
It was always had a negative connotation, but when you put it that way, it's very different. It's interesting.
Yeah, as they break it down, when you look at the demographics, allegedly, by 2050, which is really not that far away, white people are going to be a minority in this country, especially with Hispanics. And I'm down with that. I don't care. I'm like, hey, let somebody else have the wheel. Let's see if they do a little bit better, because I kind of suspect they might. But you got a bunch of folks who are like, no, we got to stop this at all costs. We got to nip this in the bud. We have to preserve our race. Listen, actually, I had a woman here. It was a white couple. They were like in their 50s, early 60s type of thing. And the woman said, you know what? Every minority program that shows itself, I'm going to vote for, because I know my grandkids are going to be affected by that. So in another 30 or something years, I don't want them to go through what black people have historically gone through. So you've got a contingent of folks out there who are like, look, let's get on the bandwagon. We had our run, we had our fun with this. And there's also talk, I've heard several people talk about how one of the things that these cats are scared of is they don't want us, meaning people of color in general, to do to them what they have historically done to us. So there's a little bit of blowback, a little bit of karma looking at them in the rearview mirror that they don't want to have to face. So that could be a survival thing, whatever. Maybe they should have been playing cool all this time, but these are things that some of these cats are considering, provided, of course, that they've got some kind of intellectual bent where they actually focus on these sorts of things. So
you say preservation of ethnicity or race, and you just hear the term out of context, and it sounds great, but you hear about some white man talking about it in the U.S. That wasn't even your country, man. Like, we're all immigrants here. Well, you know about preservation.
Correct.
We already destroyed that. Like, so now preserving the conquerors is what you're talking about? That's not what we preserve.
What's your name, man?
Anthony from New York.
Anthony from New York. What you're doing, man, is you're approaching it from a perspective of logic and reason. You've got a lot of
That's the problem.
ideologues out there. You got a lot of people with this ideology. Like there's the guy who created the term alt-right. He's been doing all of these talk show things, and when Trump got elected, they're doing the Hail Hitler, salute and all that kind of stuff. He had an interview with Charles Barkley. You should watch it. If you YouTube Charles Barkley, man, it was insane. And the rhetoric that this guy has. Listen, as a normal person, and you're from New York, that's kind of like a cosmopolitan. New Orleans is kind of like that, where you've got all kinds of different people just working together and having fun together and getting along. But man, you've got people who are in positions of power who are terrified of the notion of being equal. And the whole thing, like with Black Lives Matter, it's not that folks want to be better than you. We just want to be equal. Quit shooting us in the street like dogs. If you're both qualified to get a job, let whoever the best person is to get the job, get the job. But these cats are so used to their entitlement and being in a position like the top of the food chain, they don't want to share.
So it's more or less protecting a status at this point. Don't you think?
I would say so.
Because money talks. So if I, being a black woman, if I come from old money, do you think I would still share the same ideology?
Well, I guess that depends on how you're raised.
Because that would technically put me in that same status. So you say no, why?
I mean, just historically, like, it's about not having to be, it's about being able to call the shots, having a seat at the table. So while that table is mainly white, there are black people and other minorities at that table. And they rather maintain their privilege that their wealth gives them, or their old money gives them, than shift it. So it's a power dynamic. Like, our country pretty much runs on the power dynamic of money and influence.
Correct.
So like those people who call the shots are still going to call the shots. And there's going to be some people of color that sit there with them and call shots, but they're not trying to level the playing field. Like it kind of goes beyond race.
That's what I'm saying. Right. Yeah. So like, I feel like any person of color that had that old wealth status would still carry the same ideology of let's protect this status rather than protect our race.
Well, I got that, and that makes sense. On paper and as you present it, it does make sense. But it reminds me of Black Wall Street. Most everyone is aware of Black Wall Street. I believe it was either Tulsa, Oklahoma, or someplace in Oklahoma back in the 1930s. The 1930s was kind of fresh off of slavery. I mean, 1865, it kind of officially ended, but that beat kept going. It didn't stop. It takes a long time for these things to take effect, even nowadays. So by the 1930s, you were still strong in some kind of wacky old school beliefs, right? So you had a city that of all black or predominantly black, I want to say probably like 99%, maybe 100% black folks. You had folks who owned oil wells, businessmen, scholars, teachers, etc., and they raised themselves up by their bootstraps, by them damn selves, without help from anyone else. And what ends up happening? You had a community of all black people in the 1930s that was flourishing, not harming anybody else, just doing their thing, trying to get their piece of the pie, etc. So you had all of the surrounding white folks on the in the not suburbs or whatever, but in surrounding townships going, we don't like the fact that those cats got that. This is just kind of whack. We don't appreciate this. So they went in there, and it was like 300 people got killed. They burned down the whole thing. They took everything that they could take. They stormed that place. They actually firebombed that place. They had those old World War I sort of, biplanes or whatever. You had some cats flying over dropping bombs. These cats were going door to door, beating in people's houses, saying, where are your kids? Where's your wife? How much money you got? Do you have any weapons? And they're like, look, man, we're just trying to live. What's the problem? Yeah, now you're dead. So preserving status. What these cats were poor. Like you had these poor white people or struggling white people not trying to do better for themselves per se. Like they can create their own pet rock or they can invent a better mousetrap, whatever. They were looking at these guys going, hey, wait a second. These cats were slaves not too long ago and they're doing this well and we're not. Gotta kill them. So, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I don't want to be rude.
Go for it.
To me, it sounded like race is the cherry on top of everything. The jealousy, the competition, that mean sadistic streak in people where doing whatever fucking insecurity, whatever that you have.
No, let it happen. Let it flow.
You know, whatever insecurity that you have, that someone else may be illustrating through their success. Someone that you see is, for lack of better, not for lack of better words, but just to put it lightly, someone that's at more of an advantage to succeed, and they're passing you by. Someone's just showing you, hey, look, you gotta catch up, but instead they see someone that should not have that or whatever. It's just a reflection of people's own fears and insecurities and failures.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it seems like it's more about status than it is about race, but that race is the cherry on top.
Gotcha.
Of everything. The
it's there.
The jealousy,
It's there.
the competition. This is a capitalistic country. It is designed for folks to compete to one another. This ain't communism, no socialism where you have to pull your shit together. No, it's every man for themselves. The race is the cherry on top of all those other root causes, but it's all about status and money in this country, how I see it. And as far as folks that's helping each other out, be it through race or mutual friends, well, it's not a well-known, it's not a difficult thing to understand that people are going to look out for their own because of community, family, or friendship, that whole teamwork thing. You know what I'm saying? And we are the minority individually in this country as whites are the majority. So you just want to have more whites looking out for one another with more of a sense of community. They're going to have their own problems just like we are. You know what I'm saying? But we don't see what they go through. You know what I'm saying? So it's going to end up with more people. It's going to end up with more white people with in higher statuses that's going to be looking out for one another more than they're going to be looking out for us. You know what I'm saying? Because self-preservation first, pretty much, fuck everyone else. It's all about us first.
Well,
and it's going to make it unfair.
Please.
It is.
I mean, it's
But
already
all
happening now
about
with
status
gentrification
more than
and
race.
housing, and people literally, I feel like in 20 years, like, people are not going to have anywhere to live. Black people aren't going to have anywhere to live in New Orleans if they aren't homeowners. So it's already happening as we speak.
I think I agree with everything you said. There's something that's a little bit deeper when you look at how the American engine is run. And if I can explain this. Now imagine, like with Black Wall Street, and these cats are doing it all their own, and you've got these other guys come and say, no, we don't like it because you're succeeding, so we're going to burn you down. When you look at, you can come from Iraq or Iran or somewhere in the Middle East, and you can come to America and get a subsidy from the U.S. government. They will give you money tax-free for 5 years to start your own gas station.
Oh, it's 5 years?
Or 5 or 7 years. Or you can be from Vietnam or someplace in Southeast Asia, and you can come to the United States, and it's like, oh, you want your own laundry place? You want to start your own little family Chinese food place or whatever you want to call it? And they get subsidized by the U.S. government. You've got different groups of people who are not white who come to the United States, and the government will be like, yeah, here's some money. Cool. We are the only people. They will not help for jack. They will not, well, come the 90s, there have been programs that have, been to help people in impoverished communities, etc. But then when you look through that, a lot of that goes to the Ozarks, and it goes to places, where, trailer parks, etc., etc. But you've got communities from all over the world coming to the United States and having their own franchise, their own businesses. Jewish, hello. But us, and they talk about how the black dollar, if you have a black community, allegedly, $1 in the black community will circulate once and then it leaves the community. But $1 in the Jewish community will circulate like 20 something times because, like you said, they look out for their own. But there has been a concerted effort to keep us from succeeding. And the irony is, if the playing field was in fact even, when you look at every aspect of human life in this country, every profession, it can be academics, it can be mathematics, astrophysics, politics, athleticism, whatever. Everything that we touch turns to gold. If you have the same resources and the same abilities and the same teachers, etc., you look at the top, the cream of the crop of everybody. From music, you got Neil deGrasse Tyson, you've got Obama, you've got Maya Angelou, you've got these chess players, these musicians. If you have the ability, who's the little girl, the gymnast who won all of the gold medals and stuff? Thank you very much.
There's too many people to name these days. We're way past that.
And all of the inventions that have been made. It's like, here, I'm going to create this refrigeration unit. I'm going to create this pacemaker. You do it, and you got some Thomas Edison type of guy going, thanks, and stamping his name on it. So even when you try, and I think it's deliberately against black, because again, you can be Arab, you can be Vietnamese, you can be any kind of other person aside from Native American. Because Native Americans, that's just flat out genocide. So I think they got the worst deal, period. Because like you just said, Anthony, man, they got wiped out. Give me more. We want more. And it's that greed. And now the chickens are coming home to roost, I do believe. More and more people, we've got the internet. We've got people who are educated on all of these things.
The world's a lot flatter.
Well, there you go.
The world's a lot flatter.
There you go.
The same as everything.
With the exchange of information and more people understanding these things, there are people at the top who don't like what's going on because we are able to communicate with one another and share information. So that's always been something that they relied on. And if you took it back to like a slave sort of thing, you do not teach a slave how to read. You do not teach a slave how to swim. You do not let them be independent on their at all, because as soon as they do, hey, knowledge is power. We can't have that. And so more and more people are getting that knowledge, and you've got these cats at the top, they're shaking in their boots because they see what's happening.
But anybody else want to tell me? Oh, okay. But getting back to the topic of relationships, I want to talk about the mixed babies.
Okay.
I love seeing the mixed babies because the mixed babies aren't just mixed babies. And people are like, oh my God, I love mixed babies. But no, I look at mixed babies and I say, you guys are going to revolutionize the way that people have to do things as far as race is concerned. So you see the white grandparents and then you see the mixed baby and they're just as happy as they can be. And you were saying that when you go out to be, and I don't know what it's like to be a white person with a mixed grandbaby, but you have to put on you have to put on that face like, okay, yeah, my grandbaby's mixed, and what? And so a lot of people are changing their beliefs just based on the mixed grandbaby happening. I worked with a guy, I'm not going to give too many details, I worked with a guy, and I worked with this guy very closely, and he was a white man about in his late 50s, early 60s, and he was, retirement, doing a little side gig, and I taught him how to text message, but at the end of the day, I had never realized how black I was to him until he popped up with a mixed grandbaby.
What happened?
Well, I tell you what happened as an outsider looking in, because I had a mutual friend and he confided in her because she was white. And so it was the first thing, it was like the shame and the humiliation of having to explain this mixed grandbaby. And then it was like a whole process. So it was the shame, it was the humiliation, and then here after the baby came was the acceptance. And then after the acceptance comes the way you start to change the way you look at black people when you look at that beautiful little black face looking back at you. And so to me, I'm starting to see more and more little mixed babies walking around, and they are literally going to change the way that we interact with each other.
That's
to me,
that's
a great thing.
Absolutely. You've got holdouts, though. I promise you, you've got some holdouts. Now, the beauty is, okay, you've got these old school cats who want to keep it in the 1950s and earlier. But you've got more and more people being born into this world who are going to college, who are interacting with people. You go to jobs, and it's like, hey man, there's no difference between these people and us, okay? So you've got more and more. But man, I can tell you some horror stories. I shouldn't do it here because I've got a few ex-girlfriends who are going to watch this, and I don't want them to, they will know that I'm talking about them directly because of their parents and their grandparents and the crap that I went through dealing with these cats. It's insane. This fear. These were
white women?
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about that.
You want to know about this?
Yes, let's talk about it.
All right.
That's why we're here, right?
Here, I'll spin the wheel. Let me get one. Okay. There was this person that I was we were getting close, and we were actually considering getting married. And this is back in the day. She wanted me to meet her parents. And I told her that, you know what, chances are this ain't going to go too well because, like, I'm from Michigan. And she was from, like, the middle of Michigan. So anyway, I was trying to coach her and say, listen, this is not necessarily going to go too well, but I'm down with it. You know, we'll meet your folks. This is what happened. We go to her parents' house. There's always a little hint of danger as soon as they say, well, we're not racist, but ...
Oh, my God.
I kid you not, as we were sitting there, we were on this sofa. I'm not going to say her name. I was sitting here, she was sitting next to me. Her parents were on a sofa across from us, okay? They refused to look at me. They refused to talk to me. Sitting there, they were talking to her as if I wasn't even there. And then, one of the things she said, the mom said was, you know, honey, you know we're not racist, but did you have to get one that was so dark? As I'm sitting right there. Whoa. And it's like, just completely... would refuse to even have a conversation with. And then that's when I learned what nigger toes were. I never heard of them. I guess they're these nuts. They're kind of like heart. There you go. And there's some nigger toe. And then there's this thing called NLM, nigga love music. Like if Luther Vandross is playing, you know, you got an uncle in there. Turn that NLM off. I'm like, what is that? Hey, it's nigga love music.
Whoa.
I have people, and listen, this has happened so many times where I learned stuff like a subculture knows more about the culture than the culture knows about the subculture. I'll be sitting down talking with people just like this, and they'll end up saying, oh yeah, and I got the refrigerator out back and I had the nigger rig it and It's like, wait a second. And they don't even know that they're saying it. You know, it's in them. It is so in them.
Blowing my mind right now.
This is nothing. This is like the top, the absolute tip top, the tip top of it. I mean, there's so many of these cases, and it's like, you know what? And a friend of ours, I don't want to say his name because I don't want to put him on blast, but he made the comment the other day that he was perhaps a little bit reluctant to be with a white woman because he didn't want to deal with the scrutiny. And my thing is, you know what? If you're with a person of another race, they got to go through scrutiny too because they have to answer questions to their parents. They get the nasty looks and all of that. So it takes a certain amount of strength, a certain amount of fortitude to be able to say, hey, this is the person that I'm with. You know, and fuck y'all. Like seriously, straight up fuck y'all. Anybody else, and I don't care who it is. If it's you and your woman, it's supposed to be you and your woman against the world, you know, and you can, you know, you got your family and your friends and your support groups, and that's awesome. That's 2 thumbs up. But anyone who doesn't know you personally, and this is the same thing with gay people. Like if there's a gay person, like gay guy, men or gay women, fuck it. If you're having fun, if you're supporting yourselves, if there's love in the mix, I don't give a fuck who says what. Because they got nothing to do. It's like, take care of your own relationship. Chances are most of those relationships are dysfunctional anyway.
Right.
So while you're busy hating, these cats over here having a good time being who they want to be, and no one else should have any say in that. I don't care, religion, whatever, who, the pastor, they can go fuck themselves. Guy and girl, girl, guy, whoever. If you're happy in your relationship, that's all that should matter. All this other stuff is quite secondary.
I agree.
And
so, but after the whole interaction with your ex-girlfriend, how did that affect y'all's relationship?
That kind of didn't. Actually, at that time, okay, I shouldn't say that. I was kind of I was in the mood to kind of look for an exit strategy anyway with her. Like we were close and we were, getting closer. We were talking about getting married, Yeah. But I had my doubts. Aside from that, the interaction with her parents.
With her as a person.
Yes, with her. Just with her because of where we were in our lives. We were young. and I wasn't necessarily feeling what she was feeling. I think like she was acting all gung ho and she was 2 thumbs up with it, and I was like, yeah, this is cool. Like I dig it. I like her. She was intelligent. She had a lot of savvy, but I wasn't 100% there, so I already had a little bit of doubt. But then once her parents started tripping like that,
Parents went in.
and they tried to be cool. To their credit, after that whole incident, mom started making pies and sending birthday presents and all this kind of stuff. And
You was eating that shit?
I was young.
He was eating them damn
I
pies.
was young.
She was doing that get out my hypnosis through pies, y'all.
No, and they were good, man. They were these rhubarb pies. She made these. I never had a rhubarb pie. She would make these rhubarb pies, and they were pretty good. But no, by the next year, I had broken up. I'd call it off for other reasons. It didn't. Shit happens. You're with someone to try to see if it'll work. If you don't feel like it's gonna work, you split. That was one facet of it that kind of made me think, nah, I don't want a lifetime with this person. So no, we kind of nipped that in the bud. She was cool though. But I've dealt with a lot of parents like that.
A lot of parents
Yes.
like that.
Well, solidly on 4 separate occasions with 4 different women, where it's like you can't even make this shit up. Like, are you serious? What just went down? There's another one. This person, she was cool. Like this is back in the college days. She was really, really cool. She told her father that she was dating this guy named Jay. Now this is up in Michigan. And one day they were driving down the street, and he's like, well, when am I going to meet this Jay guy? And she goes, well, soon. Well, where's he from? She goes, he's from Detroit. And he goes, okay, that's fine, as long as he's not black. In the car, as they were going down the freeway, she goes, well, yeah, actually he is. He pulled off of the freeway, stopped the car, threatened her, and said, listen, I'll tell you what, you're going to break it off with this guy right now, or else we're going to pull you out of college, we're going to disown you, you get no more money, etc., etc., etc. She was heartbroken. I mean, she was nothing but tears as she was telling me this, and she was like, fuck them, we can do it on our own. I really liked this cat. I thought she was really cool, but I actually had to stop it with her. I broke it off with her right there. I'm like, listen, you're in college. I can't pay for your college.
Right, I'm about to have you out here risking all your life and your livelihood for me. We still young and shit.
Yeah.
Like, you in college, you can't support your damn
What
self.
the parents trying to do, they using their resources as a power play to control.
And that's
our
fine.
life. For her, it's bigger
But
than
It worked.
ain't nobody gonna be walking around talking about this shit didn't work out because I walked away from my whole entire life for your ass. I don't want that on my head.
Build some quick
Yeah.
I don't want that shit on my head.
So,
But how we looking on time? What time is it?
it's a slow night. I mean, we can be here.
6:48. All right.
Now I'm sitting here running my mouth. Everybody has to have a story in this. Like, everyone's got something to add. So I'm about to put you on the spot. Jump in. What, you hear what we're talking about? Yo, what's your name again?
Abby.
Abby. All right, Abby's about to jump in and throw her little meat on the table. What you got, Abby?
I don't know. I mean, I agree with more or less like what y'all are getting at here, like, and especially like going back to what y'all are saying, like it's different when you go abroad, like being in interracial relationships in Europe, like it's not really given much of a second thought. Like, yeah, it is what it is, but here it becomes like from the outside the basis of the relationship, and it's something that everybody looks to. But if you go to different countries in Europe, race relations have a different, it's different there. So it's not that it's not important, and it's not that like they're post-racial or anything like that. No place is post-racial, but I mean, it's just different.
Well, to that, when you look at the United States, seriously, straight up, the country was founded on that stuff. You know, it's in the DNA of this country. Again, you got a 13th Amendment to the Constitution because of that. You've got these founding fathers who were saying, all men are created equal. At the same time, they're cracking the whip on these people out back. And this is one of the biggest ironies I've always found when it comes to interracial stuff. When you peel back the hands of time, you just can't believe it. Listen, years ago, I was bored. I was up in Michigan, and I read these 2 books. One was on Abraham Lincoln, and one was on Thomas Jefferson. One was in the 1700s, one's in the 1800s. The things that they were afraid of, they would have militiamen and these people. They had these old carbon copy Xerox, letters from these guys. They were scared of Native Americans. They didn't call them Native Americans. They called them savages. These guys back in the day were afraid of savages, and they were afraid. I think it was called the Black African slave. That's how they were, phrasing, talking about Native Americans and black people. But the biggest irony was they were deathly afraid of black men getting with their women. But the irony is, look, if a black guy got with a white woman back then, you're dead, period. The kids are dead. The woman might end up being dead. So that was at a very extreme minimum. What was happening was the slave owner was going into the slave quarters, hooking up with a woman, and now you got all these mulatto kids and octoroons or whatever you want to call it, and they were pariahs. So when you got this swell of all of these mixed kids, they were doing the old bait and switch, kind of like, hey, look at them black guys over there trying to get our women. Oh yeah, by the way, I own you, so we're about to go in the shack. And they couldn't do shit about it.
Yo, like this movie, if y'all ever have the heart to watch it, I can't watch all of it. It's called Goodbye, Uncle Tom. The most accurate depiction I've ever seen. And there's a scene in the movie where it's the slave master's wife and her girlfriends are kicking it at the dining room table, and they're being served, and every couple of seconds they'll close in on one of the slaves. And when I tell you, they're having this conversation about the slaves like they're not even there, but they're talking about how they're getting lighter and lighter and how it must be some type of evolution from being inside of the house. And y'all, I was just oh shit, I was just tripping out. And then finally the last slave, she looked damn near white, and I was like, yo, this is crazy. So if y'all ever get a chance, it was on YouTube a couple of years ago. Goodbye, Uncle Tom is a wild ass movie. If you want to see what he's talking about in real time, I guess you could say.
And to that, one thing that kind of it tickles me in a sardonic way. It doesn't really tickle me as in a laugh, but you just got to look back and shake your head. Appropriation. Everything that we do. Okay, some of these cats are so inherently against the melanin that we have, this strength that we have. Yet for some odd reason, you want to go to the tanner all the time. Things that are they make these racial stereotypes about watermelon. Man, don't tell me you don't like watermelon. For some reason, that's a bad thing with black people. Or fried chicken. Don't tell me you don't like fried chicken. Why is that a slur? Or basketball. Don't tell me you don't wish you can play basketball. Even women's hair, cornrows, etc., etc. It amazes me how, look at whoever, Taylor Swift, and she's stepping out and she's pioneering this new style. What do you mean pioneering this new style?
I think when Kim Kardashian got braids, they were calling it the Kim Kardashian braids.
Hello.
I was like...
it's almost like there's something inherently wrong with some of these cats. We like what you produce, but we cannot stand you. We want to look like you. We want the fuller lips. We want the bigger junk. We want all this stuff that y'all got naturally. And it's almost like okay, please forgive me for turning this into a political point of contention.
I've always wanted to do a show like this. I'm just a biologist.
There's something interesting that we're watching right now. This is not a push for you to approve or disapprove or whatever. If you have 8 years worth of an administration where you have a Harvard-educated congressional law professor married to the same woman, no marital affairs, no scandals, etc., very well-spoken, very well-respected guy, and you've got a strong portion of the country that hates his guts, saving the auto industry, etc., all of these accolades that you can attribute directly to the presidency of Barack Obama. Boom, you flip the script, and now you've got a Donald Trump who every single day he gets on the damn TV, he's bashing Barack Obama. Instead of pushing his agenda forward, he just did this thing with the Boy Scouts. That guy is so jealous. Everything about him, you've got 3 different baby mama, or whatever you want to call it. You're attacking women left, right, and sideways. All you do is talk about, you got these dirty Mexicans over here, and you've got, look at that African American over there. Everything about this guy is kind of like a used car salesman, and people in this country love him, while at the same time couldn't stand this other guy who was doing all the things right. And it's one of those narratives where to go forward in this country as a person of color, especially black women. Black women are under damn threat, like hardcore.
Yeah.
But you've got to be twice as good and work twice as hard to break even.
No, we double minority.
That's an unfair thing to say to white folks, and I do apologize because I know you got your struggles. I absolutely know you do. You're flat out. But I can tell you, man, from living this, from seeing it day after day after day, year after year, if there's a job opening, this is the beautiful thing. I think it was on 20/20 or 60 Minutes. You had these two best friends. One was black, one was white. And this was back when fiber optic technology was starting to become famous. They put a little camera in these guys' glasses. They had the white guy go into a car dealership and ask how much the car was. Oh, it's $20,000. Then he leaves. The black guy comes in a half hour later with the same glasses. Oh, now it's $25,000. The same guy, selling the car, added an extra $5,000. They did it with trying to buy a car, with getting apartments, with getting jobs, and every step of the way, every single time when there was a white guy doing it, it cost less and it was more easily accessible. And when the black guy came in a half an hour later, it was crazy. And I think it was Barbara Walters and the 20/20 crew or somebody. After they did this little experiment, the camera crew comes in and they're like, "Hey, how come you told this guy this amount and this guy this amount?" And these cats were just full of shame and they couldn't say anything. That's what we got going on in this country. Still. And that's something that, makes people uncomfortable, and that's unfortunate. So, but that's reality.
Yeah. So I always go to the comments. So let's go to some of these comments. Let's see. All right. Hey, Derek. All right, guys. Be safe. Let's see. Oh, this is mom right here. Comments. Ashley says she gets people who think she's of Spanish descent all the time, but she's just a Cajun girl with olive skin. But that just goes to show that, a race is a perception. So if I can categorize you within like 2 seconds of looking at you, then that's what you are. Jason Young said, yeah, that Charles Barkley interview with alt-right leader was insane. Mm-hmm. Barkley came out of the interview sounding like more the logical one. And he said that his was more crazy. You could tell the alt-right guy was a few cans short of a six-pack.
Right. He didn't seem like he was firing on all cylinders there for a hot second.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay, so Wendell says, so is anyone talking solutions of what's going on in here?
I think education. Like you touched upon it. When you've got these grandparents having these mixed kids,
Yeah.
they have to take it upon themselves to educate people in their community.
Yeah.
Like, hey, this is a human being. Even though everybody knows this, so having discussions like this, open forums where people can voice their grief. Like, if you think I'm full of shit, just say it. Like, we can have a debate about it. Like, just honestly.
Yeah.
You got to bounce off thoughts and ideas in order for us to grow. Because when you're in your own head and you've got your own perspective, that's all well and good, but next thing you know, you're in an echo chamber. I need input. I mean, we can all use input, to help, mature. So, what's up, man? What's your name? Daryl. You want to throw in? What you got, Daryl?
I don't have much experience.
All right.
I don't necessarily.
Can y'all hear Daryl?
Can everyone hear me?
Can y'all hear him? Oh, you
guess
want to get on camera? Can you get on the camera?
No.
I was going to flip it.
No, that's all right. I've never had a real issue with race as far as dating.
May I ask you, Daryl, how old are you?
34.
Okay, there you grown man. All right.
I was married.
Okay.
I was with the same person for a long time. So, I don't know. I've never had a problem with it, but it's also not been my experience.
Gotcha.
And so I can't really say a lot about it, but I do understand the issues that come forward.
Where you from, man? Where are you from here or are you?
I'm from Dallas.
Dallas? Okay.
Originally.
I never knew that. Learn something new every day.
Gotcha.
I came down here for college. I ended up staying.
So without it becoming a touchy or personal thing, you said you were married. Now, are you kind of like out there in the dating scene, or how's it?
Yeah, I've been dating.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey man,
I've dated quite a few people. It's been really interesting.
have you had any kind of has there been any sort of controversial stuff depending on who you are dating and what they look like, ethnicity, et cetera, any of that stuff? No kind of blowback on that?
Not so far.
Okay.
Not with me. I don't know. It's all right. Cool. Maybe.
Well, no, I mean, if
Well,
it's not there, it's not there.
well, there was
Dating
a
white women?
no. Not. I haven't. It's
Well,
not
so then-
purposely. It's not on purpose. It's
No.
I think is that what you were trying to get at?
Yeah. Okay, so if you haven't, then you wouldn't. You hear what I'm saying? Like, so you wouldn't experience any of that kind of
Right.
stuff. Gotcha.
I've dated a Creole woman,
Got it.
and I think she's interesting.
Gotcha.
But there was a lot going on there outside of her being Creole. So
Gotcha. Are you still friends with this person? Like,
yeah, we're
nice.
still friends.
Nice.
Anybody got anything else they want to add?
Really, I think it's people's choice. I mean, you fall in love with it, you fall in love with it. Like you said, whatsoever.
Right.
And I live my bed at night, and I live with my choices. I believe.
Gotcha.
So, just who I love is who I love.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for being that way. I love it when people have that presence of mind, Sometimes, like, again, I'm behind the bar here. I work behind the bar. You wouldn't believe these cats coming up here and the stuff that they say. And it just, sometimes it's kind of, I don't know if it's because this is the Deep South, but some of the rhetoric and the ideology, and that's from black and white. There's a gentleman that we talk to who's just not all there when it comes to stuff. And I think that's, as messed up as it sounds, I think it's because the Deep South has been, the word I want to use is held back when it comes to certain social developmental things. Have been held back a little bit for both black people and white people. So it's a trip. So thank you for. Wait, what's your name? Aviance? Nigga.
Gum in there.
I think that's because progression is not necessarily encouraged in the South.
Correct.
Right.
It's systematic. They want you to. They have an advantage, and they want to keep that.
Yes.
And it's very apparent.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Yes, indeed.
I think the
In
only
everything
issue
you
I
do.
have is the hating among ourselves. You know what I'm saying? When you have people who date outside of this because they hate.
They shitting on, right? They come back and try to shit on their own race.
Right.
And it's just like, no, you look stupid.
It's like you come from.
Right. Like, what did your mother look like, man?
Right.
Your grandmother, your mother's mother.
Yeah, what you talking about?
They were all black. yeah.
So, I mean, we all, no matter what race you come from, have had that experience with parents. I mean, that's just people who don't know what they're doing, but nobody really has a child and say, let me see how this You do the best you can with the information you have. So if we start learning how to invest the knowledge that we learn, as far as how to raise children and how to be men and women, then you can, I think it's your choice. But, invest in your community, however that may be for you.
Gotcha.
Miss Joy. You have anything you want to add, darling?
Really, just listen and hear other people's opinions. I don't, well, I have never dated a white guy, I've never dated a guy who wasn't black, and I just kind of wanted to understand more of the perspective. Like, I have several friends who are mixed, I have several mixed couples in my life, and that's all good, but I just don't, it doesn't vibe me personally, you know what I mean? Like, and it's not even like I'm not dating outside of my race intentionally. I'm just being attracted to black men. So I really just came to hear
Gotcha.
the perspectives.
Gotcha. What about you, man? You're kind of quiet over there. What's your?
Well, I've dated a black woman before, and it was great. I mean, it was just like any other relationship. I had my problems, and we broke up, and didn't pan out. But I really didn't feel any pressure from anybody. We're just at two different places in our lives. And, I'm actually interested in somebody right now, possibly at work. And it's been a long time since I've actually been interested in anybody, so it's kind of scary, but I feel comfortable, I do, but there's always that unknowing what the people's reaction will be.
Is she black, the person?
Yes.
Does she know that you have any kind of little spark for her?
We flirt, so I'm sure she does, but like I'm engaged with other things too, so it's not really serious yet. But the conversation you're having here made me think about it a lot more than I've already been, so it's a good thing for me.
Cool, man.
Awesome.
Nigga, so you've had experiences dating white people?
So you guys, I had this one guy, and we were in high school, and I had the biggest crush on him, and we really, really genuinely liked each other like a lot. And he came from a really prominent family in Louisiana, so I'm gonna just leave it like that. And we went to Noka together, and so we would like sneak off and like go make out and stuff. And I wanted it to be more than what it was, and he wanted it to be more than what it was. However, we knew that the minute, the second, the hour, he brought me home, or I would have brought him home. At that time, all hell would have broken loose. And we still kind of keep in touch from time to time. We'll say hey on social media and stuff like that. And I used to always wonder what could have happened had his family been more open-minded. But yeah, that was it. And one time I went on one date with a Filipino guy. I went to a dance with a Filipino guy. But the date I went on the Filipino guy, I was really surprised because we had a lot of chemistry. Like, we had a lot of chemistry. I was taller than him and all of that good stuff, but we actually had a lot of chemistry. We had a really good time. That just didn't work out, but just like you, I mean, I'm not opposed to like dating outside my race. It's just that, you know, a lot of men don't holler. Like, what you laughing at? They don't holler at your girl. Like, you know, so I don't know. I wouldn't even know if a white man was feeling me because, like, I don't know if I'm like not picking up the white man hints. I don't know.
Well, and to that, man, please. Now, we were talking a little while ago about sometimes there's a little sass or sometimes there's a little competition. Are you doing the metaphorical, you know, dropping of the handkerchief sort of thing? Are you giving them the glad eye? Like, if there's someone, you get what I'm saying? Like, there's the strong, the tough, and it makes it look like you might not even be interested. Do you know how to flirt with a guy like that? Is what I'm saying. You get it? Or
I think it's the same.
I think I'm horrible at it.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm really good at flirting. Like, either I like you or I don't like you.
But see, that's the thing you say, if fellas don't holler at you, maybe they're not getting maybe they think you're not receptive to it for whatever reason.
Well, once I realize that I like a guy, I tell him I like him.
But is that an always thing?
No, that has not been an always thing. This is a recent thing.
See?
But initially,
Some guys are dense. Like
I'm not good at like meeting people. Like,
I don't
you know how some
know
people
what
love
you're
to get
thinking
phone
unless
numbers
you
and
say
stuff.
it.
I'm not good at that at all. Like, I will not be getting the phone numbers. What you say?
I asked that because my question is, like, one of my hesitance with dating white guys in particular is just like having certain, I hate the term woke because it's overused, but like, I was raised with a lot of knowledge of our history. So with that in mind, like, I am so afraid of the experiences you talked about with the parents. When me and my friends are drunkenly joking around, like I'll bring up Dorothy Dandridge, like just like just fear that like, oh, I'll be a fetish in private, but I won't really be treated properly, or just like even with sex, like in my mind, the idea of getting with a white guy, I have flashbacks to St. Kofa, like we couldn't have aggressive sex. I would freak out. I've seen too many like.
Gotcha.
I
Damn.
actually had that conversation too. Oh my god. But no, those are
don't get
valid.
a lot of what you're saying, but I get it on some level. Yeah, I haven't seen any of that stuff, so.
It's very valid. It's very valid concerns, but I feel like if you were to meet a guy and if he's a white guy, and if you're like the comfort factor, I think it's going to tell you everything you need to know, because he's going to come in and literally like accept everything about you. You see what I'm saying? Like he's going to embrace what makes you black, and I think that's how you'll be able to
It's
tell.
like any woman. I mean, if you like a woman, regardless of race or age or any of that stuff, you're going to be into her. None of that stuff's going to matter. That's the way it should be.
Right.
That's the way it should be. Have you seen that recently? There was this. It was right before the election. There's a real cute black chick, right? This black woman, and her boyfriend was white. And come to find out, he just lost his mind on her and started. Did you see that?
Oh,
I
yeah.
saw that. And she was afraid for her life. Like his true colors came out, and
She was with him like for a minute too.
And it's like, man, and the thing is, when you look at the guy, it's like, come on, she was gorgeous. She was actually a very attractive woman, and it looked like she just kind of went for the low-hanging fruit. This guy seemed like just like a bar bum kind of frat boy wannabe, but from the deep south with these, you know, like.
He's going in.
Yeah, no,
Go on.
Probably
Go
different from
ahead.
anybody's at the table. Like, I remember that exact story. Like, I've dated outside of my race before. The only people outside of my race I've dated though was a Latina. I dated a Latina before, and it's been a great experience. It's been a great experience that I had with that. I feel personally for me that nobody can understand me, can feel me, can connect with me. And this ain't even no diss to my sisters in the Caribbean or on the continent, but like my black American woman. That's just me. For me, you know what I mean? Like, I could never see myself dating nobody. Even if I liked it.
I told you
I
to
just
expand your horizons. I told you.
Well, you know, I mean, I think that marriage is a political decision too. I think it's
political.
It's a business decision. It's a
Yeah,
business decision.
saw that.
You said you was married before, right? I was married before too. So you know, it takes 2 minutes to get married. It takes months and months and months to get a divorce.
Yes, it does.
You know what I mean? This is a business decision. We're talking about sharing assets.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we're in a situation where one group of people were not allowed to hold assets for many, many years. And when you marry a person, you don't just marry them, you marry their whole family. You marry their assets, you marry their debts, you marry their wealth.
Mm-hmm.
So then you merge your wealth. So to me, you know, when I think about it, I just couldn't see myself merging, and this is no disrespect, because I got a lot of friends that's married to white women or married or dating white men. And of course, I don't like saying that. I got a lot of friends that are white. You know what I mean? It's so stupid. You know what I mean? But I'll say that, you know, like, to me, I just couldn't see myself merging my wealth with a group that took wealth from my collective people. That's just for me, you know.
Just for me. I understand
but,
what you're saying.
But however, I think that we have to absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that's the point that we have to get to the point where we can respect each other's ability to personally choose. You know what I mean?
Not be offended by a personal
I shouldn't.
choice.
If this sister walk in with a white man, you know what I mean? I shouldn't treat her like she ain't my sister.
Right.
You know what I mean? If I was to walk in with a white woman, the sister shouldn't be, because y'all sisters were. I went
Straight
on
up.
a blind date one time. Hold on. I gotta say this. Hold on. I gotta say this.
It doesn't really
You remember the blind date? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I got hooked up on a blind date one time with a white girl. And it was my only time ever going out with a white woman. And the look I got from sisters, good God, like, woo, woo, like, you know what I mean? Like, so as a result, I think that we got to get to a point where we respect everybody's personal choice as it relates to who they choose to love, even if it don't work for you.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
I kind of bit my tongue earlier when you were saying if you had the same experiences about how sisters look at you when you were a white woman. Can I just, I want to explain part of that look, and I don't know if you'll agree with me on this one.
Go for it.
But you know we're not in post-racial America. Like even like people like to say that shit. Like, there's a lot of race issues and race tensions still out there.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of self-hate in our community, like functional self-hate. Like people even with a voice who present to be aware of the issues and for the people.
Sheriff Clark.
Still wallow in their own self-hate.
Yes.
Stephen A.
So what
Smith.
happens when you see somebody outside, date somebody out their race? Not all the time, because like love who you love. If you fall in love with whoever you fall in love with, so I'm not the judge of that. However, a lot of interracial couples sometimes, and just by observation, you can tell there's a little bit of race play going on in there. Like it becomes obvious to the bystanders. Now again, didn't nobody know that was your first time meeting up with this woman. And y'all could have been mad in love, so it's wrong for everybody to judge. But that look that people get, and sometimes that look is implied. Because I know we were out one day and my friend was accused of giving that look to somebody. Like they actually said something, not knowing that my friend was actually mixed race. Depending on like how her, like it was summer, so she's a little browner. So like and her family, her mother and her father, her mother's white and father's black. I love them to death. They're the epitome of the couple I want to be, race-wise or not. Like, you know what I mean? Like their love is something serious, despite whatever else is going on racially. So like she was looking at the dude because of something else. Like, there was something weird about the dude. And like he assumed that she was hating on the fact that he was with a white woman. You know what I mean? Like,
But
Did he
that
say
has
something?
to
What did he
happen
say?
Because that was a lesson in
like,
that.
oh, get over it. Like,
That was a
like-
lesson in that. Did she tell them I'm of mixed race?
She just laughed it off.
Oh,
Because she didn't want to
man.
hurt his feelings by talking about whatever she was like really looking at him about. Whatever. So I'm just saying like so that look that you get when you're with like interracial couples get, like it's because people are thinking like what level are they on? You know what I mean? Like are they in it? Like you're seeing the people on like talk shows like on how they date white man they cousins, blah 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 blah. Like there's a lot of that walking around in functional relationships. There's a lot of people out there purposely trying to have mixed babies. Like there's a lot of that happening.
Yeah.
So like a lot of those looks that you see are people just trying to like gauge it, which is none of our business to gauge. But like that's part of that look. It's not so much hate, or it's not even so much that the sisters will want that particular man. Because a lot of times you don't want that dude. Like it's just like what's going on, what's the play going on. You know what I mean? Like, and it's people being nosy, but it's not so much always geared at breaking you all apart or putting you with a black person. Because like the numbers don't even add up. Like there's not even enough black men for all the black women. So like, some of us have to go outside of our race. Some of us have to do, and then again, like if you turn around and you fall in love with anybody, fall in love with them. Like it's whatever. Like I feel like in
Well, it's a
2017
weird
people
thing,
did that.
man. It's,
You know, it's interesting.
like you don't have a choice in the matter sometimes. Like, oh, I love you.
So I should go ask her if she wants to come in and see if she has anything
What is
to
going
contribute,
on?
because she's living that life right now.
Too far.
Wow.
Whatever, you
What
know?
time? What time, y'all?
At first,
I don't have a.
sometimes.
7-18.
Okay. I'm gonna have to write this up
I mean,
in a
like,
second, but yeah, I would
next
love to
point
have
we're
one.
gonna see it.
Let me
And
know.
I
that's
do
my-
that on that
Security over here.
where because at the end of the day, if you understand your power and who you are, you're not gonna. It's
Quan!
Dating Monday.
Quan, you a fool for that. You a fool.
Monday,
Wow, thank you for coming.
I could probably do that.
Okay.
Where
Maybe black women, but still good.
it could be, whatever.
Yeah, on all fronts.
If you come to join the house,
Yeah, it's
part of
important
it.
at the end of the day.
And you see me at the counter, like, hey, I'm going to possession because I might forget. So, you have to get.
I'll wear the shirt.
Like, so people start coming and you're attracted to them.
Yeah.
Where at?
No.
It's your choice.
Dress well.
Like just like casually dating.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have this issue,
Come in a
You know,
three-piece suit.
no, not
That better yet, why are you calling them into the?
Across the board. A lot of the women are like coming.
Why you calling them? Why you telling them to come over?
But yeah, like, she was give her around 7 to like check in. There was somebody up there before 8 o'clock. We started dating.
Right.
14 pairs.
So,
Okay. All right.
all right, Tracy, you can always catch it on the replay. So I'm gonna go ahead. All right. So she go over there.
Yeah, I mean,
All right.
she's working, so she.
I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this thing on up, but I did want to share what Jason said. He said these biology group talks are highly important because love can't happen without a relationship, and a relationship can't happen, especially when it's an interracial one, if two people have nothing to relate to.
Okay.
I mean, you have to have some commonalities.
Yes,
I
indeed.
mean,
Core values.
yeah, most definitely. So this is it for biology, a real life study of love and relationships. I want to thank Jay for coming and just giving us his thoughts so freely. And I love the way he thinks, and I wanted to hear more of it out loud on biology. And so I'll probably be gone, but you can still come over to St. Charles Tavern and get you something to drink or something to eat. And shout out to Next Generation Millionaires, my partner. So I would like you to go ahead, catch it on the replay, talk about it with your coworkers, like, share, please, please, please support. I want to just thank everybody who came out to support me, y'all, my goodness. So I was just really, really, really happy and surprised by that. And hopefully I can do much, much more of these. Yes, Jason said brother was dropping knowledge today. Good job. All right, so you already know what it is. Take these nuggets and let them sit in your spirit. It's your girl, the biologist. Till next time, love you.